Right.
Alright, we got our rototiller out here this morning. We're going to talk about this thing a little bit. This is what I use to get the beds ready. I don't know if y'all can see, I hope y'all can kind of see a little bit of everything. Tip it up here a little bit. On the back of this thing, there's blades, or what we refer to as tines. That's what does the work on this rototiller. It's got an engine up here on the front of it. This thing is self-propelled. It's got a high and low speed and a reverse on it. The low speed is mostly what you use when you're doing what we're going to be doing with it. Cutting the ground up. I got a ramp that I use to drive it up into these raised beds, and the ramp also works to go from one bed to the next. I can drive it up in one bed, and then the ramp is designed to fit across in between the beds, so I can just drive it across on the ramp to the next bed when we cut everything up. They call it a rototiller because the blades or tines on the back of it back here, they spin. As you're moving along, you engage it and it spins, so it's rotating. That's where they get the roto part. The tiller part, tilling, is doing some kind of plowing or some kind of something with the soil like that. Plowing the soil, cutting up the soil, preparing the soil to get ready to plant. You know, you call that kind of work tilling, so that's where it gets the name rototiller, because it does the tilling with a spinning or rotating action of the blades. There are other attachments that you can get to go on the back of this thing. The only part we got, and most of these that you see, you mostly see them with just the rototiller attachment on the back of it, but they do make other attachments you can put, and some people use these things for home gardening. They ain't got a big enough place to have a tractor, but they got a bigger place and you can take care of by hand, and you can get plows and different things to go on the back of this. And once you're done with the rototiller part that's on it back here right now, you can take that off and put other attachments to do other things with. Like I said, we don't have any other attachments. We don't really need any of the other attachments for what we're doing with it. All we need is to use it to get these beds ready to plant. 2 of the beds I've already run one time with it here, and I'm going to check it out, checking oil and stuff like that on it, and I'm going to run these 2 beds that I already done once. I'm going to run them again today, and we got our 3rd bed over here almost ready. I got a few more feet to work on it, that I'm going to get all 3 of these. I'm going to run the rototiller through all 3 of these today. First thing we're going to do on it is check the oil. I do a little bit of work on this thing. I check the oil every time I use it, just out of habit. I can tell kind of it's not leaking or anything. I'm the only person using it, so I sort of know when it's been run, and I know what it's doing, but still, just out of habit, it's a good habit to be in. Check the oil regularly. So I pulled the dipstick out of it here, wiped it off, put it back in, couple seconds so the oil gets on it good. Pull it back out and see where it's at, and I can see the oil is right at the full mark, so it is ready to go. And I know it doesn't leak, it doesn't burn any oil or anything like that, so it should be in good shape. The next thing I got to do, I haven't done in a while on this thing, there's a couple of plugs that I got to take out and check the oil. There's a piece under the center that drives the tires, and then there's a piece they call a transmission in the back of it here that your attachment's hooked to on the back, and there's a couple of plugs we got to take out and check the gear oil in those 2 spots. The center section here where the tires are, I know it leaks a little bit. There's always a few drips on the floor. It's not leaking bad. It's not leaking bad enough at this point that I need to take it apart and fix anything. There's just a few drips over a couple of weeks' time, but it is enough that I do need to keep an eye on it and make sure it's got some oil in it. The first plug is back here on the back. Clean it off, clean off around it. good as I can. These things are greasy. They get a little bit of grease and stuff on them. And then the dirt sticks in the grease, and you don't want the dirt, you don't want the sand and dirt going down into the gearbox, because that'll wear out the gears. I'm going to try to wipe this thing off really good. Pause that for a second to smell.